you've moved into like this new space. You went from being in the Crown, which is like historically accurate, to going into the Great, which is, you know, relatively inaccurate. What was that like?
Yeah, for an actor, it's fun. It's easier to relax a bit and just kind of go with the flow in that kind of backdrop of knowing that, you know, everybody's on board with the irreverence and hilarity, and so a lot of fun.
I mean, you're playing somebody who did exist. Joanna, she was a princess. Did you do any research for the role or not really?
I did a little bit of initial research, found a couple of paintings that had been done of her, which looked completely different from each other. Found out a bit about her upbringing and what happened when she had arrived in the court in Russia. And, you know, there were some things that that happened when she was there. The reason why she left was very different, and the things that took place while she was there were quite different, but she did go, and she did have an opinion about Catherine's role, but pretty much everything in between, I think, is a free-for-all.
And what was it like to come into a cast? I mean, same thing kind of happened with The Crown. You came into a cast that's been so familiar with each other. How was it?
Yeah, it's a little bit different than The Crown, I think, because in The Crown, the prime ministers are such a big part of the story from season to season, and this was you know, always going to be a very short burst of activity, and so I haven't really had a lot of experience with that before, jumping into something was, or I guess maybe with Hannibal, but I mean, they were all so lovely to work with and so welcoming, and from the very beginning. And I was already a big fan of Elle's and was excited to get to have an opportunity to work with her, and she's just phenomenal. And also with Nick, and it's fun, you know, that particular environment is so hilarious and silly, and you know, it reminds me a lot of Monty Python, actually, which I'm a big fan of. So I knew going in that it would be fun, and it was fun.
Well, and it's such a different setting. I mean, for me, I've watched so many. I watched Hannibal as well. That was incredibly dark. You know, The Fall was dark. Do you look forward to getting these opportunities to kind of go into different spaces? Definitely.
I think, you know, for such a long time, I did so many dark things, and I think it was very difficult for people to imagine me in another space, you know, imagine that I might be able to do comedy. And I guess it was, even though I feel like I did along the way, and I feel like even with the X-Files, a good portion of the episodes that we did were comedic episodes. It's still, people didn't really think of me in that way. So it was kind of sex education, I guess, probably coming along, and that I guess alerted people to the fact that I might be able to do something a little different. And this too, I mean, it's a very, very different type of comedy than sex ed comedy, but it's all funny, you know. As an actor, it's just this is the kind of stuff that makes our work so enjoyable.
Well, and you've been very vocal about, you know, wanting to like kind of set a different example, especially with like your female roles. Was this different for you in the sense that she's, I mean, from what I can gather, she's not entirely a feminist in like the big sense of the word?
No, she's not, but I feel like because Catherine is, and she's really finding her voice in that arena and being very outspoken about it, as she's coming up with all these ideas of how she can have a positive impact on women in Russia. It's the fact that her mother comes in and completely tries to shut it down and just doesn't understand all this nonsense that she's talking about. The juxtaposition of hearing somebody so close-minded as Joanna next to this very bright, strong, and enlightened young woman helps to, I guess, put a spotlight on exactly the topics that Catherine is trying to push forward with in Russia, and how ludicrous the ideas are that her mom is trying to, instill upon her. So even though I'm kind of playing the foil or the anti-feminist, in contrast, it helps the other to stand out in a positive way, I think.
Well, and there's also like this interesting dynamic between them. What was the funnest part of playing these more outlandish characters? Catherine eats dirt this season, and like, what was one of your more fun memories?
Probably the peanut scene. That was quite fun. Just the idea behind the peanut scene. And the whole conversation that takes place at the table. But anytime there was, food scenes in these type of shows are just, there are food specialists that come in and make these. I've got so many pictures on my phone of close-ups of the amazing creations they came up with in these tables. And I always find those scenes fun to interact, and they're hard to do as a director. They're really hard to do and to pull off, but they're quite fun to perform with them.
And will you be sharing more behind the scenes photos? I think that was one of the things that I think everybody looks forward to seeing what you'll share from behind the scenes.
I have to get permission from the cast first. I think I must do that before Friday, because I that's a good point. I will be sharing BTS's, but I definitely need to make sure that it's approved first.
Well, we all look forward to it. Thank you so much.